Welcome to the Easy Marketing Guide with Julie Niehoff on the Listen Up Network. This is our weekly podcast with helpful, practical advice for small businesses and nonprofits. If you like what you hear today, please hit subscribe so that you will always have the latest episode. And you can always go to our website, theeasymarketingguide.com, to get free downloads and helpful links for everything we talk about on the show. Okay, welcome. This is episode 106 of the Easy Marketing Guide with Julie Niehoff, and I'm your host, Julie Niehoff. Today in the studio with me is producer CJ.
Hello.
And we are going to have an inspiring and exciting, empowering show today. We're going to talk a little bit about the impact of local business on any market. And today, because we are doing the show from Austin, we're going to have Rebecca Mellow, who is the executive director of the Austin Independent Business Alliance. She's going to come in and talk to us not just about Austin, but about the overall impact of local businesses on a market, on the economy of that market, on the job rate, and what it means to not just run a local business, but to shop at your local businesses and bring your money to those organizations in support of local business.
I think she's an inspiration. She's seen it all as far as small business goes, from being a small business to helping them.
Yeah, Rebecca's amazing, and
she is a force.
I've learned so much from her, and I'm excited to talk to her and have her in the studio today. But first, we're going to have Koi McDermott.
Yeah.
Koi is also inspiring to me as well.
Absolutely.
He's a young guy, has his own podcast. Have you heard it? I've listened to it.
I have, yeah.
It's great. It's called Leaders in Leadership. It's a top 100 podcast, which is...
For millennials, yes.
Yeah, it's an amazing feat. But I think he brings a lot of energy, he brings some great ideas, and I like to get like to get a perspective from someone who isn't just starting out in their business, because Koi's been at it for 3 years, but I like the energy that he brings, and I'm excited to talk to him.
He has a very sunny disposition, and it was a pleasure to speak with.
Yeah,
to hang out with.
Yeah, so let's talk to Koi.
Okay.
Welcome to the show. Today in the studio, I have Koi McDermott. I'm very excited that you're here, Koi. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Julie.
Koi is a recognized leader in leadership, which is not something I get to say very often. He has a top-rated podcast. Would you tell the good people about your podcast, Koi?
Yeah, sure. So my Lil podcast, and that's actually a really great play on words, is Leaders Inspire Leaders. So sometimes I use Lil, L-I-L, just to help people to remember that.
It's not little, though. It's very, very popular.
It is a pretty popular podcast.
You can brag. You're the top 100, right?
Yes. It is an iTunes top 100 podcast for millennials. That is who I am and who I look to, of course, help.
Now, I love what you just said. It's who you are. And I firmly believe that you have to figure out who you are in order to surpass ordinary life and really find a life that you love and, make the most of it. And often that means you have to find what you maybe don't like about yourself or don't realize is actually a strength.
I agree with you. Sometimes I think it's a lot easier for individuals to find out what they don't like, and then from there go and figure out what they do like, right? So a lot of times when people are asking, well, Koi, how do I find my passion or my purpose, right? Like those are kind of the buzzwords and the big words that individuals use nowadays. It's really, what don't you like, right? What do you hate? And how can you now figure out how to solve that particular thing? Because if it's something that's lighting you up inside, the interesting thing is love and hate are really two sides of the same emotion, right? Like there's that passion that's there. And if it's something that you absolutely hate, then figure out how you can fix that. And chances are you'll find a passion of yours.
That's a passion. And hate is not the opposite of love. Indifference is the opposite of love.
Yes.
And I often say to any business that I'm consulting with or talking to, you're not battling sales. You're not battling your competitors. You're battling inertia. You're battling the lack of effort or the lack of excitement.
Yes.
And people just sitting still and not reacting to your marketing or your message or your service or your product.
Yes.
What is it that drove that spark for you?
Well, what drove it for me is, so I really believe in either jump or get pushed, right? Take the leap or be pushed. And for me, I had been nudged to take the leap. But I had to wait until I was pushed, which I think a lot of us probably do. And
that's honest.
That push for me happened when I was told on a Friday that my position was going to be completely eliminated. And if I didn't find another position within the organization, my last day was like
Many people have
10
had that
calendar
moment.
days,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Like I was like, what?
Yeah.
So for me, it was essentially really figuring out again what my strengths were, knowing where my limitations lied, and then beginning to create myself. I think for a lot of people, they find that last part very difficult, or they don't think about that last part, and they're spending so much time discovering who they are, as opposed to figuring out what their strengths are and then creating who they want to be.
And we come back to a standard, regular, dependable theme of this show, which is you make your luck.
Yes.
It does
I
not
love
just
that.
land in your lap. You are ready at all times. Now, I talked to Ruben Cantu, and your name came up.
Yes.
You
yeah.
know Ruben
I
very
do know
well.
Ruben. He's a, he's a really, really great guy.
Now, Ruben told me that you are always at the ready
Yes.
to be ready.
Yes. Yes. So essentially what that is you don't have to get ready if you stay ready.
Absolutely. And how long ago did you start your podcast?
Yes. So my podcast, I started February 13th, 2015. It happened to be a Friday the 13th. And people were like, everyone was superstitious. Are you sure you want to launch it then? And I was like, yes, this is the date that I put out. This is when I'm launching it. And I never looked back.
I love that. But you are no longer a startup. I think that's fair to say.
Yes.
You are in the sustainability category.
Definitely.
How are you going to do that?
I was speaking to a really, really sharp woman. Her name is Tanya Hoffman. And she was talking about how she had a conversation with a local billionaire here in Austin. And she just frankly told him, hey, like, how are you a billionaire? And one of the things that he told her is that in every single thing that he does, he looks for 6 to 7 revenue streams. And that is what I'm looking for now with the podcast, right? So 6 to 7 different revenue streams. I've got a really great Instagram following. That's all, of course, attached to the podcast. So I'm thinking about doing 1-minute videos for companies and organizations to that, of course, align with the brand. That's a revenue stream. Of course, we've got the advertising on the podcast as well. That's a revenue stream. Using the podcast to leverage that for speaking engagements is another revenue stream. And it's really, again, it's just about finding as many revenue streams in what you're doing as possible. And they don't all have to be direct revenue streams. You can have indirect revenue streams where, for example, you bring on a guest or something like that for the podcast, and that now has marketing implications that you, of course, can leverage later on for other things. So, but it's really beginning to think about everything that you're doing in that particular light.
That brings up that reminds me of something of interest in the same vein, and that is so often people are not thinking of their business as what is really their business.
Yeah.
They're thinking about where their passion is, which I love and support.
Of course.
But where the money comes from is where the business is.
Yes.
And there's an old story, I don't know if you've ever heard it, where Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, stood in front of all of his management team at a conference and asked them, what business are we in? And, the crowd starts saying, Big Macs, fast food, great burgers,
Sure.
great service, whatever. And he's like, nope, we are in the real estate business. We own all of the property that our franchisees are leasing from us. Real estate is where their true revenue stream was.
Yeah.
And that's mind-blowing to me. And they've actually changed their business model since that happened, so it's no longer true. But now they own all of it.
Yes.
There's very few franchisees left. But it's an interesting take. And when you're talking about wanting to have multiple revenue streams, because this billionaire said, that's the key to him, is that there are multiple revenue outlets or streams.
Sure.
It takes more than just focusing on your podcast then, doesn't it? It's really that you're the brand.
Yes.
At least that's what I'm gathering. I've watched your podcast or your video cast.
Thank you.
And I've watched you do some interviews around the Small Business Festival in Austin and a lot of different things. You have a lot happening other than podcasts. And I'll bet that you have speaking as a revenue.
Yes.
Consulting as a revenue.
Yes.
None of this has to do with podcasting.
Not at all.
And I think it's funny that you didn't highlight it, because I know that you know those things. So I just wanted to point it out that there are other places that we're not even talking about that money can come from, and revenue is the lifeblood.
Yes.
To let you keep going. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Koi.
course, Julie.
Especially
Thank you so much.
that you have your own podcast. It's a little intimidating to have someone with a top podcast come into our little studio, but I really appreciate your time and your honesty and being so open with your ideas and your thoughts today.
Of course. I truly appreciate you all's authenticity, and I love the show already. You guys are going to do great work. So
thank you. That
so
means
much
a
for
lot.
having me.
Thanks so much.
Definitely.
How great is Koi?
Just it's so much fun to talk with and to be with. He's so up all the time. It's hard to have a bad day with him around.
It's true. He's just such high energy. I really like him.
Yeah.
And I'm excited now to move into the conversation with Rebecca, because Rebecca Mellow is a fixture in Austin's local business community and actually across the country. She helped get the one in Austin started, and Austin's is the first one ever. It's also the largest, but there are independent business alliances around the country, and she's a recognized leader in that community as a pillar of strength, of knowledge, of experience, and I'm really excited to have her in the studio and bring that knowledge out to our listeners.
Me too. She's seen it all. She's had several businesses. She's had some succeed, had some fail. And then she took that energy and that drive and helped other people to do it, because that's ultimately what's in her heart. She's a great person.
And just like any other successful person we've ever known, there are failures and you get through them, and that is where the lessons are, which we learn time and time again.
Tenacity.
Yep, and Rebecca's another example of that. So
absolutely.
I'm so proud and honored that she's come into the studio. Okay, so welcome to the studio today, and I really appreciate you coming in, Rebecca.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
I know that your background is in the local business community as executive director of the Austin Independent Business Alliance, but you also have, in a prior life, you come from, publishing? Is that right?
28 years in publishing, from dailies on down to monthlies, weeklies, just about everything in between. I've owned 3 publications, sold 2, lost 1, which is really not a bad score for publishing.
And now you are the executive director of the Austin Independent Business Alliance, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what AIBA is?
AIBA is a nonprofit that supports and promotes locally owned businesses. And we do that through many ways. One, through advocacy, marketing, networking. We help our local businesses in any way we can.
Excellent. Now, I feel like it's important that we disclose that you and I know each other well. We've done a lot of events together over the years. And so I want to talk to you about not just AIBA specifically, but in terms of your history working with local businesses, with small organizations, with owning your own, running your own. I want to learn more about what, from your perspective, works and doesn't work. And I say that, sort of tongue-in-cheek, because I know we've had many conversations about what works and doesn't work, and especially planning meetings, events and meetings together. And we can talk about that in a minute. But I want to know, what is it, after all of this time, you've been with AIBA for 10 years, is that right?
Actually, I was one of the founding members of AIBA when I owned a publication called The Good Life. And it's truly a grassroots organization. It was built up by people just talking to each other and saying, hey, is this something we need in Austin? We were the first citywide independent business alliance in the country.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And now there are over about 140 independent business alliances. This was in 2002 when we formed. We currently represent over 800 locally owned businesses.
Wow.
And every variety. Services, retail, we even have some manufacturers and wholesalers. And it's such an interesting tribe.
Tell me what drives you about that, because, just while you're talking about it, I can see it, I can hear it. And I know that it's a lot of the relationships, but, I also know it's not always easy, but something drives you every day to give everything, and I'd like to know what that is.
I like to make a difference. And if I can tell one short story.
Please do.
When I had a publication, early years of The Good Life, it wasn't financially working. And I had a friend who started a publication at the same time who was just going great guns. And we were on the phone one day, and I said, I don't understand why I'm failing and you're succeeding. And we're both really good at what we do. And he said, oh, I beg to differ. He said, I think you are succeeding and I have failed. And it's like, what? You know, what are you saying? And he said, well, I think you have to look at, he said, I set out to make money. And in a sense, I am making money. Not as much as I want, but I am making money. You set out to make a difference.
Wow.
And you have. And it just sort of went bong, you know, and I thought, oh, that's so true. I did set out to make a difference.
And so often people are measuring success by the financial gain of it, which is important. You know, we need to live and feed and have a place to live and all that, but that's not necessarily the measure of success.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I think even now the national studies are starting to look at just with job seekers. It's like, what are the most important things to you? Money is rarely on the list, and it's almost never in the top 5 things.
Wow.
And so my personal credo about life and jobs is do good, have fun, make money. And making money has to be in there, because if you don't make enough money to continue doing what you're doing, you can't make a difference.
Sure. It sounds like there might be a sub-bullet of help others make money, because what I watch you do is help other people not run their business. All of your members are running their own business. I don't want to take that credit away from them. But you're certainly raising flags when they need to be raised, and you're carrying the community in terms of hope and progress and making changes in the city. I know a lot of your events are equipping them with tools and understanding and resources to do better with their business so that they can actually have a life, not just a business. And
well, as I say, if you are a business owner, hopefully most days you own a business, but some days that business owns you. And you try and keep those days down to a minimum, but I think any business owner out there will say, oh yeah, some days my business owns me.
So over the years of running AIBA and working with so many small businesses or local businesses, I should say, they're not all small, but local businesses, and also working closely with the city and in local government and politics, you're having to surf that. What has been the biggest surprise? And I don't necessarily mean a negative surprise, but what caught you off guard that you didn't expect that you've learned to surf around or to celebrate?
With the city or with business?
Both, either one. I'm just curious what's caught, because you came into this already an established business person. You knew what you were doing. It's not your first rodeo.
Right.
But I'm interested to know what may have knocked you off the saddle and you had to get back in the saddle and figure it out.
As far as the city goes, I could write a book now about how, so here's our form of local government, and here's how our charter says it's supposed to work, but then here's how it really works. One of the things I learned early on is, in the beginning, we talked about all the feel-good things about local business. We love local business, and it's Keep Austin Weird, and it's all these wonderful things, which when you go talk to city council members, they go, oh yeah, and they're all in this little love fest, but they need data. They need cover for taking action. They can't really take action over the feel-good part. They need, why is local business important? AIBA, Book People Waterloo, and Livable City did the first study in the nation of the effect of local business, and that's where I'm sure everybody's heard the 3 times the money stays in Austin when you spend that money with a local business versus a chain store. And Civic Economics did that study, and that was...
Would you say that one more time? Because I don't think everybody's heard that.
Okay. For every $100 that you spend at a local business, 3 times the money stays in Austin's local economy versus spending that same $100 at a chain store.
Great.
And the reason that works is that the chain store profits go elsewhere. They buy things from corporate. A lot of that money is spent outside of Austin. But with a local business, that money is spent inside Austin, so it recirculates and has the net effect of 3 times the money.
Great.
And that launched the career of civic economics across the country. Now they've done this study all over the nation. They're quite well known for their local studies. But it was trying to put a figure on, we all know and love our local businesses, but really, what difference does it make? Well, here, 3 times the money. This is the difference it makes. Sure. And if you look at the statistics, small business by and large, small businesses are local businesses. Not all local businesses are small businesses. Sure. But small business drives the job growth completely.
Yeah, we've been seeing that a lot in the news. They're talking about
exactly. Small business in Austin is responsible for 85% of the job growth.
Wow.
And you read the headlines and hear the big stories when a big new company comes and, they're going to hire 100 people or 1,000 people or whatever. Those numbers are minuscule to how much local business does every day, every week, every month.
And do you know whether that's true across the country in other cities?
It is. Mm-hmm. And in some cities, it's greater than it is in Austin.
I was going to say that because here it's great for small business. It's a great climate for it. It's people are coming in all the time. But say in Omaha, that might not be the case directly. And is that attributed there too as well, those same numbers?
They vary across the country depending upon how much industry you have, and Austin's quite a hot spot for companies moving here, so that goes into the mix and the balance. And in places where you don't have that kind of bigger business infrastructure coming in, the smaller businesses represent an even larger portion of it. And I think when you look at that, that was a real turning point for me to go beyond the feel-good point about local business, to go beyond the relationships and the community. And we still talk about all that because it's hugely important. But to take that to the next level, we were the first organization in the country to do this. They are every cat and dog. They're all different. Some are statewide. I was a keynote speaker for the Utah Independent Business Alliance, and it's a whole state, and they have a conference once a year. Some are more neighborhoods rather than an entire city. We are one of the largest cities that have a local business alliance for the whole city. The thing I love about working with AIBA is I get to work with all these fabulous local business owners, and they are passionate about what they do, and they love what they do, and it's so much fun to work with people who are like that. But I also get to work with consumers. One of the studies we had done was if the Saturday after Thanksgiving, which is a big shopping day, if everyone went out in Austin and spent the same amount of money that they were spent anyway, so not more money, but spent it all at local businesses, it would put $14 million into our local economy in one day.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And that's so empowering because it's so easy to think, I'm just a consumer. I don't buy that much. I don't. What can I really do? This is a huge economic issue. But it's really not, as it's the consumers who have the power. So, make every time you spend $1, it's a vote. It's a vote for a business.
I love that. I love it.
Pay attention to who you vote for.
I don't sit around thinking in terms of I'm just a consumer, just because that's not a hat I put on, but I am a consumer. And we are, including all local business owners, are also consumers. Mm-hmm. I think of myself as a mom, a wife, a businesswoman. These are hats I put on, but all of those are consumers.
Every one of them. We're all consumers at one level or another. It doesn't matter how much you spend. And I think when people realize, we have another campaign that we do, and it's just shift 10%. We're not saying you're evil if you go to Target. Maybe if you go to Walmart, but but this isn't we want you to never eat sugar again. This is if you just shift 10% of your spending to local business, it makes a huge difference.
I love it. So I know that, well, just from this conversation, but also from knowing you for a while, that you've not only run businesses, you've had businesses close down, you've sold businesses, you have worked with many business owners. What would you tell a family member or a really close friend who told you they were going to start a business right now?
Do it. Do it.
Good answer.
Do it. Follow your dream, because you only have one life. And it's not really, I know that if I were super responsible, I'd probably be giving you some economic thing that says 50% of all businesses fail, so don't do it.
Oh, I hate that statistic. It's true, but I do hate it.
But I think that I've had businesses one business that folded. And it's when you pour your heart and soul into something, it's so hard. And it was just devastating. And I don't regret 1 minute of it.
Oh, I love that answer.
Not
I love
1
it.
minute. Follow your dream, follow your bliss, follow your heart. We mortgaged our house, we did everything. Never a second thought.
Well, there's also resources for people that are planning to start a business or even already have one and are trying to figure out how to make it work better. SCORE Association is the Service Corps of Retired Executives. SCORE has offices all over the country. It's free counseling from people who are senior citizens who have been in that industry, successfully have all that experience and are willing to give it away because they are no longer a competitor. And it's a great resource. And small business development centers also, specific to any specific niche or industry, they have information that can help you.
One of the things that, and actually they've changed their name to the Small Business Program.
Thank you.
Such a major
That's
change.
only in Austin, though.
That's
Small
only in
business
Austin.
development centers exist all over the country.
One of the things the Austin one has that I'm sure other people have too is they've collected, like if you want to start a childcare business or a restaurant business or different types of businesses, they teach a class, and here is every permit you need, everything you need to know, the licensing you need, change of use permits. Here's everything you need to know specific to that type of business. So you want to open a food truck, here are the rules for food trucks, and those are hugely helpful.
Yeah, that's free or almost free. It doesn't break the bank to go to one of those classes.
I think it's like $35.
Yeah.
It's like it's
to know you're
really
crossing
good.
all the
Yes.
T's, dotting the I's, and I think that's huge. Rebecca, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today, and I appreciate you coming into the studio to share your knowledge and your experience, as always.
Thank you so much.
And I really want to have you back. There's so much more to say and so much more I want our listeners to hear from you. So I hope you'll come back. And thank you so much. Okay, that was a pretty good show. I'm happy.
That was really inspiring. Rebecca's so cool.
She is. And man, over the years, I've learned so much from her. I wish I could bottle it up or publish it or something. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Koi too. Koi was just incredible to talk with both of them. They're highly inspiring people.
They are. I think it's time for Here's What We Know, because that was a good long show. So let's go right into it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so here's what we know for episode 106 of the Easy Marketing Guide with Julie Niehoff. We know that Koi McDermott has a top 100 podcast called Leaders in Leadership that you can find on iTunes or any of the other outlets for podcasts.
Lil podcast.
We know that Koi learns a lot by listening and tries to stay ready for when opportunity comes knocking. We know that Austin's Independent Business Alliance was the first in the country, is the largest, and we know that Rebecca Melançon is AIBA's executive director, and she shared that for every $1 consumers spend at a local business, at least 3 times that amount goes back into that community. I think that's really powerful.
That is amazing.
That's huge, and that it's not for lining the pockets of big corporate entities. It's for paying for braces and dance lessons and baseball uniforms and things like that.
Yeah, and all the way around the community, because it circulates. Then the $1 that goes in turns around and keeps going around and around in the community,
Exactly.
as opposed to right into big box pockets.
Exactly. We know that, or actually I should say we have reconfirmed our common knowledge that out of failure comes knowledge, and that local business owners are the brave, strong pillars of our society. I believe that. I know you believe that, don't you?
Yeah, sure.
We know that AIBA's website is iBuyAustin.com. We'll put a link to that and everything else we've talked about on today's show on the website, theeasymarketingguide.com. And I think that's it for today.
Great show.
Yeah. Go out there and earn your luck. You can do this.